Guys, what's going on? Welcome to Serial at Midnight. My name is Heath, and this is Music Palooza Volume 2. That's right, if you're familiar with our Palooza videos, they are long-form review videos that's really focused on just kind of the, we bought this stuff, now what do we think about it? And so this is going to focus on music. It's the second one of these that we've done. It's been a while. I've got a lot of feedback from you guys, supporting music-related content, so this just feels like the right time. And for this conversation, I thought I'd mix it up as far as filming locations goes. So this is my, kind of like my little music corner. We've got, this is in the process of being changed, and there's going to be like a cooler, better location for this. But for now, my vinyl is kind of on these three racks right here. You can't see the third rack, but and of course I've got my Beatles art here, my Les Paul, but we have lots of things to talk about here. Let me show you guys. We've got, I gotta be careful with these. We have a stack of vinyl, including, if you saw from the thumbnail, Burt Reynolds had an album. Yes, he did. I've got some documentary packages that I want to talk to you guys about, including this is a brand new release. As I'm recording this video, it hasn't even hit the street yet. What's the word on the street, Johnny? The word on the street is the British are coming. And then, of course, because we love physical media, I've got a big old stack of CDs here that I want to talk to you guys about too. So this is just going to be conversational, less produced, more kind of podcast style, right? But with more focus on substance and what I thought about this stuff. So let's get into some vinyl chat, because I know, listen, I've got a lot of feedback from you guys about the music coverage. A lot of you guys are digging into the vinyl. Some of you guys are kind of looking for more vinyl conversations, more vinyl, like how do you get started and stuff like that. So I know, one of my tips is like, I love these record shows. We have a record show that comes to my county like twice a year, and I've done coverage of these shows on the channel here in the past. It's there's these record conventions. I'm looking for the orphans. I'm looking for, I want to dive through the crates. I'm not looking for a $150 copy of, there's a cat going crazy. That's the downside of filming outside of the studio room where we normally film, is like I'm out here with all the cats. So we'll see what happens. Cat shenanigans. Although a lot of you guys seem to like the cats. So this, I'm looking for the orphans. I'm not looking for $150 copies of like, I don't know, vintage Rolling Stones, which, by the way, I have my fair share of vintage Rolling Stones already. I posted that on Instagram, actually, like my Rolling Stones vinyl collection. I'm only missing a few. The orphans, right? Let's talk about the orphans. I'm looking for the things that are the vintage vinyl deep dive stuff that's like the Burt Reynolds record, I'll hold it up so you have something to look at while I'm talking. I'm not looking for Radiohead on vinyl, I'm not looking for the usual suspects. I've got all that stuff. I'm looking for things that are interesting and maybe new to me and are honestly kind of a good deal too. So these record shows, that's a great place to start. You get $3 records or $1 records, and often, because these are independent vendors, they'll cut you deals. I also know I have to acknowledge this, like vinyl seems to really trigger a very small percentage of you guys who are like, screw vinyl and screw everybody that loves it. But listen, I've been doing this for like 25 years. I've talked about this before. Like after high school, when I would get out of high school, like 3:15 in the afternoon, I would cruise by the thrift stores and look for vintage vinyl. When everybody else was listening to Nirvana or Pearl Jam or Guns N' Roses, I was looking for, Beatles and Bob Dylan and fringier stuff too, like the Hollies and the Rascals and things like that. So this is kind of what I've always done, and I love vinyl. So if I can help more with that, I'm always looking for video ideas, so give me some suggestions if you need more information about certain things. All that goes to say, the twice-a-year record show for the summer, they do it in the winter, they do it in the summer. Summer has been canceled because of the current health epidemic. And I understand, but I was devastated, you guys, because I get so much good stuff. I think the last record convention video I did ended up being a Patreon exclusive, but it was like 36 records, and I spent like $50. It was crazy. It was good stuff too, man. It was like Vanilla Fudge and like all kinds of cool stuff. But with this news that the record convention has been canceled, I was just like, I was at a low. And so it's like, well, what am I going to do? So we have a record store here in my town, Seasick Records. I've done a video from there before. There's an internet radio station that's kind of launched out of my town, and I covered this launch party that they had at this record store, and I did a video from the record store. It was very cool. And it's not like necessarily regionalized either, because it's an internet radio station, which means you can listen to it too. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to this record store and just see what all I can find. And it's interesting because right now this record store has got like lockdown procedures. So to get in, you have, one, you're supposed to have an appointment. Two, you have to have a mask. You have to have gloves. It's hardcore. Which is, again, it's all understandable. You're going to be in their store thumbing through their goods. I get it. So I actually did not have an appointment. I was in full disclosure. They sent an email out and they were like, we're laxing, we're being a little looser on the appointments. Walk-ups are welcome, but they take second priority to appointments. So I was in the area and I cruised up to the parking lot of this place and there was like nobody there. I could see like 2 people in the building. So I call. There's a sign on the door and it was like, you have to have an appointment. I call. I was like, hi, it says you have to have an appointment. I don't have an appointment, but it looks like you've got some space available. They're like, yeah, come on in. So I was like, didn't you send out an email that said walk-ups are welcome? And he was like, yeah, but not a lot of people read that. Here, put your mask on. Well, I had my mask on already. He's like, put these gloves on. He's like, sprays hand sanitizer. He's like, all right. So it's like, okay, so I'm just walking around this store. It's been months since I've been in the record store because of everything that's going on. And at this store, they have $3 vinyl. And I'm just like, it seems to have grown since I was there the last time. And I'm just like thumbing through it, just taking my time. And so that's where a lot of the stuff that I'm about to show you comes from. The Burt Reynolds album actually comes from a Second and Charles. Some of you guys have Second and Charles in your area. The home location, the Anchor store is in my town. It's the first one. And I have to tell you guys, I may have talked about this before, but when Second and Charles opened with that first store, I went in, they're owned by Books A Million. See, if you guys are bored already, this is what we're doing. This is a conversation. This is a podcast. So if you're, I'm not going to throw stuff at you hard and heavy. This is just going to be like, Heath talks about the stuff he cares about for like an hour. Second and Charles, when they first opened, they're owned by Books A Million, which is another big chain. That's their model. Because of the decline of the book market, their model has completely changed, and now they're leaning into Second and Charles, and they're Second and Charles everywhere because they're like, well, we can sell used stuff and some new stuff. It's the whole trade-in, the whole buybacks idea. Like GameStop, is in trouble because of the decline in physical media, but stores like Second and Charles seem to be doing really great. But the point is, when this first store opened, I went in. I was like, it's wonderful. I came home and Bree was not with me. I talked to her like after. I was like, Bree, it's wonderful, but it's not going to last more than 6 months because people don't want physical media and they are buying. So this place is like a warehouse. I mean, it's a former, what is in there? Anyway, if you've been in one, they're like the size of like a Walmart or something like that. And it's just used media, new media too. But anyway, I got those, all that goes to say, I got this record, $3. This is Burt Reynolds. It's country. It's a Burt Reynolds country album. The light is a little harsh on this, but if I turn the light down, then I'm too dark. So we're just going to have to deal with it. It's kind of like a biography, the first childhood, 1949. Slow John Fairburn, the first one that I lay with. And it's country. It's Burt Reynolds doing country. When I bought this thing, I was like, oh my goodness, Burt Reynolds had an album. I was like, I know, right? He was like, it's like that William Shatner album. He was like, does Rocket Man and stuff, where he's like, I guess can I quote lyrics? Fair use. We're criticizing this album. This is a work of criticism. So YouTube, this is fair use, pals. Where he's like, and I think it's gonna be a long time till touchdown brings me round again to find. It's that kind of thing. So anyway, this is Burt Reynolds. It was $3. See if I can. Where am I gonna put my vinyl? The other album that came from Second and Charles is this. I don't know. This is like late 70s. I think this is 1970. It's got a year on it. Hold on. 1980. So right around the time that sort of like New York, early New York rock, or early 80s New York rock. You know what I'm talking about? Sue Sad and The Next. The cover, man. The cover of this, the album art. I'm trying to get the glare off. I'm sorry. They're so earnest. And I kind of love it. Like, they're just so, like, they know how cool they look in their red pants, their red accents, and their shoes, and their leather. It's pretty fantastic. And full disclosure, like, I haven't listened to the whole thing yet, but I'm really enjoying what I have heard. And it is that kind of, you know, it's a very distinct sound. It's this early 80s AOR, maybe I want to say, like album-oriented rock. It's very specific. The other one here, this is the last one that did not come from the record store that I told you so much about, but that's the soundtrack for Truck Turner, the Isaac Hayes movie, the blaxploitation movie with you know, we talked about it recently in a Kino Lorber sale haul because I picked up the Blu-ray and I was like, I gotta have the soundtrack for this, and I was able to find a used vintage vinyl copy. Again, I'm all about vintage vinyl. That's another one of my tips for new record collectors is, like, don't go pay $30 for a Rolling Stones album, because there are millions of Rolling Stones albums in the vintage vinyl bins, and they may not be $3, but they're not 30 either. And a lot of these records need homes, and so you could give them one. You know, you could give them a good home. eBay, I'm iffy on eBay. You know, our 5 tips for collecting physical media. eBay is not a great resource for bargains. If you're looking for stuff that's off the beaten path, yeah, sometimes. But I don't know that I'd go looking for Rolling Stones albums on eBay, because, you know, everybody wants to get a premium on that stuff. Like, well, the Stones are like, this record must be worth $300. All right, so the rest of this stuff is deep dives from the $3 bin, those orphans that I'm talking about, the stuff that I like to look for. So first is the Peter Jacques Band. Peter Jacques Band. And what's the name? Fire Night Dance. Fire Night Dance. This is disco. I have listened to this. We listened to this the other night, and it's really good. All the songs sound the same, but that's okay because it's disco, and that's kind of what you're there for. You want a consistent groove, a consistent beat, so you can just keep dancing, man. So here's the back of the album art. See, if I hold it perfectly straight, you get that ring light glow. It's hard to show, so I gotta hold it a little bit of an angle. I'm sorry about that, but it's good. So the story, I had to look this up because I was like, I'm not familiar with the Peter Jacques Band. And by the way, that is, like, I looked it up, that's how it's Jacques. It seems like it'd be like Peter Jacques, but it was like J-O-K. So it was like, you pronounce it J-O-K, Peter Jacques. He was, I think it was a French/Italian businessman who went into the music industry in the 70s. He got really big with disco, and he was abroad. Maybe he was in France. I want to say he'd gone to a disco in France and had a beef with somebody, and he got killed. Like, they shot the dude. Said he was assassinated. It made it sound very like it was like, was this a person on a roof with a sniper rifle? He got killed. He got in an argument with someone at this disco. He left the disco. The guy followed him and gunned him down. So we have, I think there are 3 Peter Jacques Band albums, but the singles, Fire Night Dance was a single. There was also Devil's Run. I Want to Fly with the Wind. That's a good one. There's only 4 songs on the entire album because, you know, disco. They're like 10 minutes each. But I don't know. It's a lot of fun. I liked it a lot. $3. This is exactly the sort of thing that I'm looking for. I'm looking for the orphans, right? I'm not looking for, like I say, I'm not looking for Radiohead. That's the one that I go to because, of course, the Radiohead section in the record store, well stocked. You know, they got like all the Radiohead and the Johnny Cash and like all the stuff that like teenagers are discovering. That's who they're marketing to. That's got to be the core audience. I'm looking for the trade-ins because I got all that stuff. I've done that. Guys, the Hughes Corporation. This is the band that sings Don't Rock the Boat. That's the name of the song, right? Hold on, let me find it. Rock the Boat. It's not Don't Rock the Boat. It's Rock the Boat. This is I'd Like to Know Where You Got the Notion. I want to sing it so bad, but YouTube is so strict with their copyright stuff. I think it would be okay for a work of criticism, fair use. I think so, but I don't want to push it because YouTube, goodness knows, they will bend over a creator at the drop of a hat. Any reason, they're like, I'm sorry. Well, they're not sorry. They don't say they're sorry. They're just like, suck it, creator. So I gotta be extra careful. There's your YouTube rant for this video. Hughes Corporation, mid-70s, early to mid-70s. I think this is 74. Funky post-through rock. You know, it's hard to describe some of this stuff. It's just good music. I believe this, you know, we've talked about the Midnight Special. I have a dedicated video review for the Midnight Special box set from Time Life. I believe that there's a performance of Rock the Boat on the Midnight Special box set. Cool band, and I think like one of these members like dropped out of the band to become a minister, which you go from like global success, because that's a big song. Don't rock the boat, baby. Don't rock the boat. I'd like to know when you got the notion. That was a big hit, global hit. You guys, the best of Sam and Dave. Now we're talking about Isaac Hayes. Just a second ago, Isaac Hayes co-wrote so many of these songs. If you're like, I don't know if I know who Sam and Dave are. Well, if you like the Blues Brothers, this is all Sam and Dave. So Soul Man, Sam and Dave. Hold On, I'm Coming, that's Sam and Dave. And all these songs here, there are 14 songs by Isaac Hayes, 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 Sam Cooke, Isaac Hayes. This is 12 of the 14 songs Isaac Hayes co-wrote. He was a big producer, musician for Sam and Dave in the 60s. This is some classic 60s soul. I always love records too, because you get, you're not going to be able to see it. There we go. You get like liner notes and an essay, and you're just sitting there listening to the music, and you're just reading all about it. Among all the soul acts performing today, if you have such an electrifying effect upon their audience as Sam and Dave, and you're like, I hear it. So it's just, you know, this is again orphans, right? Like this is for this record store, this is worth $3, but for me, this is what I love. You know, I love all of music. I love all genres, as you're gonna see, and it's just a really cool opportunity to flesh out your music collection. And you guys know, like I'm telling you like you don't know, but you know, every video is somebody's first video, but this is the stuff that makes Serial at Midnight. This is what we do. All the obscure movies, they're not obscure, there's just so many of them, and everybody's talking about the same thing. Everybody's talking about the same music. You know, hey, do you have the new Chainsmokers? Do you have the new Luke Bryant? Well, I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for the stuff that built that. And that's the, you know, pop culture and analog. And this is the analog of pop culture and analog. Guys, prepare yourself for one of the coolest album covers I've ever seen. I love this album cover. I'm just going to hold this here so you can bask in the majesty. This is Mongo Santa Maria, who I was not familiar with, but this cover sold me. Also, I mean, is this not the most evocative, just in case the light's too harsh on that, let me, there we go. Is this not like the most evocative album art that you can think of? And it sounds like Austin Powers looks. Like, you know, the Quincy Jones theme from Austin Powers, like, this is an album full of that stuff. Mongo Santa Maria is where is he? I want to say he's Brazilian. I shouldn't be saying things like this because I don't remember. He is basically I'll say Latin. He's a Latin band leader and musician who this whole era, this is kind of like Exotica and lounge, which if you've been with Serial at Midnight for a long time, it's been a while since I've done one of these, but I would do the Space Lounge, where I would curate 12 songs, and I think the first one's only 4 songs, but I would curate Exotica and spacey music and 60s weirdness, and I present them in playlists, and they're here on the channel. If you want to find them on our main YouTube page, I have the Space Lounge. I think there are 5 of them. There's a Spook Lounge for Halloween. They're here if you want to look at them. Hopefully the videos are still up. I did not upload the videos themselves. I know enough to not upload music to YouTube because of my experience and how YouTube just slaps those people down so hard. But I linked to other people's videos in playlists of 60s music. It's not just 60s. It was all kinds of stuff. But this is firmly in that camp, and we were listening to it the other night. It's got like an Exotica swinging horn version of La Bamba. And like the whole thing is like ba la bamba, la bamba, la ba, like all through it. It's like the Muppets version of La Bamba. It's amazing. Fatback, Summertime, The Watermelon Man, Mr. Watermelon Man. That's the kind of title track here. Anyway, again, like no one's looking for this stuff. This was $3. It's super clean. I clean all my vinyl. Sometimes you guys ask like, how do you clean your vinyl? In the old days, I've actually got a thrift store cleaning video where I explain how I would do like a rag in the sink with Dawn dish detergent. I still stand by that, but I have upgraded to the Studebaker record cleaner, and this is it's kind of a knockoff, being nice, of the disc washer system, and it's a basin, and you've got rollers. The rollers are, I'm not going to get those, but you have adjustable pegs, slots for your rollers. So you put your rollers in here, you put distilled water in, you've got a solution, you spray on these brushes. The brushes go in right here, and then you just put your record down in the water. It's held on firmly, and you rotate. You do like three rotations this way, 3 rotations this way, and those brushes in that solution really loosen up any dirt or dust, and it is remarkable. If that sounds like, well, I don't know how effective that is, it's very effective. And all these thrift store vinyl albums that I get, and like here, one of the things behind this, they're selling them so cheap. Like, they're selling the Association's Windy because they're selling it for $3 because they're not cleaning it. They're just taking these in for people's collections, trade in for credit. Who want Radiohead and Johnny Cash? They're just taking these albums in for credit, and they're not cleaning them. They're just sticking them right back out. If they don't have a jacket, they put a new sleeve in there. But that's how I do it, and it makes these records sound, they don't sound new because they're not new. Well, sometimes they do. Sometimes they do sound really new, but it takes years off of them. And if you're buying vintage vinyl and you're not cleaning it, you're only getting a fraction of the experience. You gotta clean it, man. You gotta clean your dirty stuff. So anyway, Windy. I'm a big Association fan. I don't know how much more there's. Windy. Again, I want to sing it, but I have to be very careful about that. Never My Love. That's a good one. Anyway, this is a sub-variety of 60s pop music called sunshine pop. You'd think not the Beatles, you would think the Beach Boys would be sunshine pop, but they're actually not. It's more like Harper's Bazaar is sunshine pop. These guys are sunshine pop, where it just feels very, maybe a little bit of the Mamas and the Papas might drift into sunshine pop, but it's very optimistic. It's very it's about taking the time to stop and smell the roses. Of course, by the time the 60s were over, sunshine pop was gone. I was reading about it on the internet. It was like it resurged in China, I think, or maybe it was Japan. It resurged in Asia, like in the 90s. All these, this group of people was like, well, that was really cool, right? And it kind of launched a renaissance, and then that spread to Europe, and then that spread to America. And now here we are. I have the Association on vintage vinyl for $3. This is another cool one that I was really happy to see. This is Freddie Cannon, Palisades Park. You guys may know this song. I'm not sure. This was a staple on Oldies Radio, but I don't think Oldies Radio exists anymore. Oldies Radio, when I was growing up, when my day in the 80s and the 90s, Oldies Radio was like the Beatles and the Beach Boys and Chuck Berry and Buddy Holly. There have to be women too. I have to name women. Connie Stevens. It was it was the birth of rock and roll. It was 50s and 60s. Now it's 70s and 80s. I'm not sure why, but that's the current model now. So like our oldies radio, and the internet's different. Internet radio is different, but like broadcast radio, antenna radio, they're playing like all our oldies stations that used to play the stuff I was talking about now play. I hear like the theme from Shaft on the oldies radio station, and then they'll follow that up with like Huey Lewis, and I'm like, eh. And in the classic rock stations that used to play like Badfinger and AC/DC and stuff like that, they're now playing Nirvana and Metallica. I'm like, this is not classic rock. It depends on your definition, but if that's classic rock, then what do we call the first? That's like on Sirius XM, they've got the vinyl, right? We got they have, what is it? It's like classic vinyl, is that what it's called? Anyway, they're very focused, and then like the one after that is like a cassette. I can't remember because I don't have Sirius XM. I don't subscribe to music. I buy my music. They focus on these different generations, but if that's not classic rock, what do we call it? Because in my opinion, it's classic rock. Anyway, Palisades Park, great song. Oldies song. I can tell you more if you want to know more, I can tell you a little bit more. We had another record store in town that closed for a variety of reasons. And there's a video here on the channel, I think it's on the main channel, where the store closed and we like went on the last day of business for this record store. And as we're there for the last day, you know, like pouring one out for another record store gone, it's like, oh, it's another one bites the dust. We're looking around at all these prices and realizing and remembering why the store is going out of business in the first place. So this had a price tag. I took all the price tags off because, again, I've cleaned all of this. This had a price tag of $20 on it. And it was dirty, and it's seam split. You know, it's in this sleeve right here, but it had seam splits on 2 of the sides. And $20 for this, like, this is what I'm talking about. So many people think these vinyl albums, like thrift stores, are putting like 18 bucks. Whoops, kick the stand. So many people think this stuff's worth so much money. It's worth what you'll pay for it, and I got it for $3. I got it in the $3 bin. So it's worth about $3. But I really like this guy, Freddie Cannon. That's a song I always liked. I want to say that the Beach Boys do a cover of Palisades Park on their first or second album, but it's been a while. It's been a while since I've revisited that particular album, so I can't say for sure. Oh, you guys, we've been talking so much about Isaac Hayes. I got another Isaac Hayes album at the $3 bin. This is For the Sake of Love. For the Sake of Love, baby. Chef from South Park. You know, a previous video, I mentioned that I feel like South Park may have done an injustice to Isaac Hayes, because so many people don't realize that Isaac Hayes he won an Oscar, right, for the theme from Shaft. I know he's a Grammy winner, but didn't he get an Oscar for the theme from Shaft? Multiple award winner, huge giant, of course, co-wrote Soul Man and Hold On I'm Coming, like a big deal. And then there's like an entire generation of people that only know him from like, well, hold on, children, who like from South Park. And I got a lot of feedback from that comment. I got comments that both said, people know who Isaac Hayes is. They know he's a big deal. And then I got comments from people who said, I didn't know that the voice of Chef ever did anything else. I'm going to have to look into this. And Truck Turner was kind of a jumping off point. I love Isaac Hayes. One of the coolest people ever, man. His music is just fantastic. And this is 78, I want to say. Yeah, 1978. So it's kind of getting near the end of what I consider that classic period for, you know, 70s soul. I like 60s soul, I like 70s soul. When it gets into the 80s, I'm less a fan of that, but this is still firmly in that. You got Simon & Garfunkel, Sounds of Silence. I already have this. It's around here somewhere. I was going to see if I could pull it. I already have this, but so many of my vinyl comes from thrift shops and stuff like that, and I'm always looking for better copies. So now I'm at the point in my collecting where I'm picking up double, you know, 2 and 3 copies of stuff, you know, because I'm looking, well, this is better than the one I got, and they're for $1, $2, $3. Like, why would you not? So this is actually an upgrade for me of my Sounds of Silence, I believe, and it has the. I was gonna say it has the original sleeve, it does not. It has a replacement sleeve, and now this thing is so tight, I gotta finagle this back in here. This is an album that goes back with me to the mid-90s, because I was as I told you, I'd get out of high school, you know, and I'd go cruising the thrift shops. For Simon & Garfunkel was another one that I really loved. I had the greatest hits on CD, I want to say, and then I'd go home and I had this album, and I had Bridge Over Troubled Water and stuff like that. Recommendation, if you're like Simon & Garfunkel, listen to Sounds of Silence. Listen to I Am a Rock. That's the other one from this album. That was a really big hit and a really solid single. Founding voices of folk rock. Very good stuff. So I grabbed this one as well. We're getting close to the end. This is actually, oh, you guys, it's my girl. It's Cyndi, Cyndi Lauper. This is a 12-inch single. It's actually 4 songs, but it's a 12-inch. It's not a full album. This is from her second album period. It's got What's Going On, the club version. It's got What's Going On, the long version. It's got What's Going On, the instrumental. And it's got B-side called One Track Mind. So for $3, and for some Cyndi Lauper, the cover alone, right? This is actually, I think this is being used as the cover of one of her greatest hits albums. But here's where it came from. It was the cover of this 12-inch single. And it had I assume maybe this is a replacement disc keeper. By the way, in a previous mail video, Ryan from Triple Feature Creature sent us some record sleeves, some inner sleeves, and those have come in really handy. So I haven't really shouted those out here since that video, but Ryan, I use those and I really appreciate those. Those are nice. Okay, we're about to go deep on one particular artist. I saw one. Well, I won't bury the lead. Neil Diamond. You're like, Neil Diamond? Well, this is Brother Love's Travel and Salvation Show. If you know and love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, then you know this song because this was in all the trailers. You know, Hot August Night. Hot August. No, don't come at me, YouTube. Fair use. We're talking about this song. I feel so ridiculous having to defend myself, but I do feel like I have to say this. Like, hey, YouTube, slow your roll. Don't come. They come after people all the time. I get messages from people, hey, man, YouTube took my video down. I'm like, well, did you do this, that? And the list gets longer and longer. And YouTube won't write you back. You have like, hey, I would like to contest this. They're like, sorry. This is not even a person. It's just a machine. It's just an algorithm that takes your stuff down. It's low and dirty, man. This is Hot August Nights. No, it's not. It's Brother Love's Travel and Salvation Show. 60s Neil Diamond. I have not always really liked 60s Neil Diamond, but I've come to him in the last couple of years. And this is, the period of Solitary Man. And, he wrote for the Monkees. Daydream Believer is a Neil Diamond song, is it not? So this is a very specific, I'm telling you, this cat's cool, man. A far cry from Coming to America and stuff like that. I'm not crazy about that. But this, well, I can't see if you can see. Yeah, this is pretty sweet, man. Pretty freaking sweet. So I was like, oh, I see this. I was like, oh, Brother Love's Travel and Salvation. Yeah, I'd like to take that. I think he still closes all of his live concerts with that song, even now. Actually, I don't think he's touring right now. I think he's walked. I think he's retired. It's like the last year or two. I think he's retired. But for 30 years, he closed his concerts with Brother Love's Travel and Salvation Show. Neil Diamond Gold. Now this is a compilation of it's a live show from the Troubadour, right? Recorded live at the Troubadour. I want to say 1969. I don't see a year on this, but I think it's 69. It's around there. And of course, it has all of the hits that you can't see because it's too bright. Can you see? Yeah. If you could just get under here and look up, you'll be able to see. Now, it's got Solitary Man, Holly Holy, Cherry Cherry, Kentucky Woman, Sweet Caroline, which I think can we agree that none of us ever need to hear Sweet Caroline again because it's been played to death. The radio killed it. Rest in peace. The radio killed it. And then, he closes with Brother Love's Travel and Salvation Show. Cool stuff. By the way, it reminds me, like, Mannix. There's an episode of Mannix in the first season. I love Mannix. I think Mannix gets a shout-out in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, too. Clearly, Quentin Tarantino and I are drawn from a lot of the same passions and loves and stuff in his late 60s culture, 70s culture, all that stuff. But there's an episode of Mannix where Neil, he has to go investigate. Mannix is a private investigator. And he has to go investigate the disappearance of I think it's the disappearance of a daughter. They kind of all start to blend together after a while. But there's it's the 60s LA, the late 60s Los Angeles, hippie scene. And he goes into this club. I think this is the episode I'm thinking of. He goes into this club and Neil Diamond is playing. And it's just Neil Diamond and an acoustic guitar. And he does Solitary Man, and it's awesome. They let it breathe. Like Mannix just sits at a table, and he's just like smoking a cigarette, and like Neil Diamond's just like singing Solitary Man for like a minute. It's pretty cool. I love that stuff. So it continued. They had Velvet Gloves and Spit. Now this is an album that got re-released. This is the re-release because what is the one of the songs here, I'm trying to remember which one it is. Shiloh. I think it's Shiloh. Had a couple of versions and it got re-recorded, and like his record company or former record company tried to make some money off of a previous version. So he's like, I'm going to re-record it, and then it got a re-release with the new. I think that's the story. I didn't I did research a little bit of this, but I don't present, like I'm not reading. Sometimes people ask you, like, do you have notes? Like, are you, Do you have a script? No, I don't have a script. I'm just talking to you guys about the stuff that I dig. So if those, do your own independent research. I'm just pulling some stuff from memory here, and then I think this is the last Neil Diamond record. This is what is this one called? Taproot Manuscript. This is going to be less glary because it's matte finish. And this is the one with Cracklin' Rosie on it. And I think it's really cool because you're ready for this interior artwork. Boom. Statement. Minimalist. But I'll tell you what's cool is that it has a pull-out. Now, this so bright, man. That's not a booklet. This is a booklet. It's got all the lyrics and everything, but it's got a note in here. Or maybe the note is on the sleeve itself. I think the note is in here. Yeah. When rhythm and blues lost its sensuality for me, I fell in love with a woman named Gospel. We met secretly in the churches of Harlem and made love at revival meetings in Mississippi. And loving her as I did, I found a great yearning to know of her roots, and I found them. And they were in Africa, and they left me breathless. The African Trilogy is an attempt to convey my passion for the folk music of that black continent. Neil Diamond. So it's kind of telling, like, it's like 1970, and he's like, done with rhythm and blues. I'm bored with it. Like, okay, all right. Like, all right, Neil, calm down. Fine. Anyway, it's good to have them. All these were $3. So I have to confess something to you guys. Like this record store, they're so like tattooed. And, I have the beanie on today, but I don't wear my beanie like some people. Some people wear it like a weapon. And I felt like I bring my Neil Diamond up. I got Isaac Hayes. I got all this vintage vinyl stuff, and I bring it up here, and I just feel judgment. I don't know if it was actually there or if it was imagined. If I imagined this judgment to be conveyed upon me, but I felt judgment from my Neil Diamond. Maybe I'm just being a little insecure about the thing, but I feel like maybe it was there. All the stuff that I buy, because I'm not looking for, again, hey, Chainsmokers? Do you guys have the Chainsmokers? I'm just not looking for that. Do you have Lady A? You have the new album from Lady A? It's not me, man. This is another fun one. This is Disco Teen 65. And it was here, it's written on here somewhere. Hold on. Wait. Hey, Terrence. Wait. It's a Columbia Record Club exclusive. You guys, Record Club. It's so bright. Record Club exclusive. But freaking good stuff on here. Mr. Tambourine Man by the Byrds. Subterranean Homesick Blues by Bob Dylan. Chad and Jeremy. I only know of Chad and Jeremy. That's not true. I see Chad. I think I have some Chad and Jeremy somewhere in here. They were in an episode of Batman, the 1966 Batman series. I believe they get kidnapped, and Batman and Robin have to go find Chad and Jeremy. Is it Chad and Jeremy or Peter and Gordon? It's Chad and Jeremy. The Ripcords, The Vibrations, Chuck Benet and the Mice, Paul Revere and the Raiders. It's another one that Tarantino likes a lot. There's like 3 or 4 Paul Revere and the Raiders songs in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's like, man, you leaned into that one. The Yardbirds, For Your Love. Yardbirds had Jimmy Page in it. It had Eric Clapton in it. Bobby Vinton, the Dave Clark 5, Major Lance, Dion's good people, Aretha Franklin doing Mockingbird, and the New Christy Minstrels. Rest in peace, Kenny Rogers. New Christy Minstrels, Silly Old Summertime. Before Kenny Rogers went into country with, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them and all that stuff. He was in the psychedelic 60s music scene. Did you guys know that? Some of you did, but not all of you. And I think that's really cool. The thing that I love about this era of music, about 60s and 70s music, is that the boundaries between country and rock and blues and gospel and folk, they were like paper thin, and everything just kind of flowed. The Rolling Stones, Honky Tonk Women. You play it one way, it's country. You play it another way, it's rock and roll. You play it another way, it's blues. It's that music of that. I feel like we've kind of gotten away from that. And you can weigh in on that, and I'd love to know what you think about that. But I feel like we've gotten very far from multi-genre, just making music for music. Now, it's interesting because a lot of that music is now labeled Americana. But it's not just American music. Like other bands play these kinds of, like from, you know, England and all this stuff. Like it's just this very interesting cross-genre. I don't know. Getting very clinical here. And the theory of the music, if you look at the Aeolian cadences, Ventures in Space, I love the Ventures. You know, I've loved the Ventures for a long time. Since I was a kid, my dad had a 1974 Laguna S10, and it became my car. That was my first car. I inherited the 74 Chevelle Laguna. And he had an 8-track player, and he had Ventures on 8-track. And I think there were cassettes for when we were in the other car too, my mom's car. But I have always loved the Ventures because I grew up with a certain... Yeah, maybe one of the reasons that I love 50s music so much is because he had some 50s music too. And I just grew... Like, it was always there. There was never a time without it. It was always there. But anyway, Ventures. This is Ventures in Space. So it's got a lot of... you know, it's getting into that more mid-60s psychedelic sound. It's not, psychedelic's probably not the right word for it, but it's more experimental. More cinematic, possibly. This is the last one, you guys. Oh, I can't even show. Okay, this is the Thompson Twins. Okay, and I have to cover this because there is a child, and the child is not wearing any clothes. See previous comments about YouTube. When I upload every single video that I have to upload, I have to say if there's a child in it or not, if it contains images of certain things. So I'm just going to have to cover up this child sans clothes. It's meant to be very innocent, but in today's climate, I ain't taking no chances. So it's the Thompson Twins. Here's to the Future. Here's to Future Days. Trying to see if you guys know any of these songs. Thompson Twins I really like, but I can't name a ton of their songs. They have a song in Pretty in Pink, I want to say, and they're the band that sings Hold Me Now, right? That's Thompson Twins, right? Okay, I just got very unsure of myself. Anyway, that was another cool grab. So that's going to do it for our vinyl talk. Now let's move in. Let's break it up with some documentary talk. So I'm going to start with this. This is a new release from Mill Creek Entertainment. If you've seen our most recent Mill Creek Entertainment video, our kind of an unboxing video that had Eureka and the Neo Ultra Q, which is freaking awesome, by the way. The review for that coming. If it's not already out, it might already be out. But here's a peek behind the scenes. I haven't recorded that video yet, but it may debut before this one does. This was released, it's August 11th, is release date for this, and I'm recording this before August 11th. Imagine that. And it's a 5 documentary collection. Here's the thing, we're gonna have to get into this. It's a 5 documentary. It's cool. I like it. I'll start there. I like it. It's got a documentary called The Beatles: A Long and Winding Road. The Rolling Stones. We'll do these one at a time. The Beatles: A Long and Winding Road is presented in 5 parts. They are 52 minutes each. The Rolling Stones, just for the record, again, 5 parts, 52 minutes each. They cover the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and then the Millennium Era. Brian Epstein, Inside the Fifth Beatle, 52 minutes. Inside John Lennon, 52 minutes. And then The Who, The Vegas Job. So the first 4 of these, the Beatles, the Stones, Epstein, and Lennon, 52-minute chunks. They're not authorized. They're not approved by the estates of, McCartney or Lennon or Epstein. They're not authorized. There's no face interviews with any of these people. There's no music from any of these bands because they can't do that. It's sort of like that's how unauthorized stuff is, right? It's done off the record. So you're looking at movie trailers and press conferences and things that exist in the public domain. The Beatles one, well, let me go back a second. So you have all 4 of those. That's what they are. And then The Who, The Vegas Job, is a freaking concert. It's a full Who concert from 1999. The story behind this concert is really interesting too, because it was put on by this .com. I think Pixelon is how it was. I think that's the name. And Pixelon, it was a Vegas show, of course, hence the name, and it was gonna be like, we're gonna have the best telecommunications for this concert. It's gonna be streamed into millions of houses, and it was kind of a fiasco. Like, a lot of people paid for this, and they couldn't watch it because the stream failed. And then the company was out of business. They were bankrupt by 2000. So 1 year later, they don't even exist anymore. And I think this is kind of a legendary concert for what happened behind the scenes. But I was just, after watching, 52 minutes for Beatles, 52 minutes for the Stones, 52 minutes for the Epstein, 52 minutes for Lennon. How many hours is that? Like 11, 12? I'm just like, well, what's the Who? And it's going to be the same thing, right? And so the Who, like, it opens up, and there's just like, it's a stage, and then the video package in the back, and it's just like all these album covers, and like Roger Daltrey from like 1967 and stuff like this, and then it's like, and then like the band walks out, and I'm like, okay, they're about to cut away and start talking about back in 1962, the Who, whatever. Pete Townsend picks up his guitar, and he launches into I Can't Explain. I was like, what? It's music from the Who, and then it's like a full 90-minute concert. It's actually, I like I don't love the Who, but I like the Who, and they play like all the usual. They play Baba O'Reilly, they play Pinball Wizard, the one from like Who Are You? I was gonna say the one from CSI, but they don't play I Can See for Miles. That's one of my favorite Who songs. I Can See for Miles. They don't play that, but Behind Blue Eyes, they play that. It's fantastic. And so here's what I'm saying: you got 4 unauthorized documentaries which have no music and no involvement from the people they're talking about, and are made up of conversations with the Beatles. They talk to interesting people. They talk to, like, in the early days of the Beatles, they were like, John's first band was the Quarrymen. Before the Beatles, he had the Quarrymen. Well, you got 2 of the other Quarrymen in this documentary talking about, well, John was always very nasty. He liked the leather, he wore his leather jacket, just that sort of a thing. And then they talked to Tony Sheridan, who was one of the Beatles' first songs. In fact, I think it was their first recorded single was with Tony Sheridan. It was My Bonnie, right? And they've got Tony Sheridan there talking. But here's the thing. Because you don't have access to the Beatles, we're getting the opinion of the Quarrymen and Tony Sheridan about all of the Beatles' history, stuff they weren't there for and have no inside knowledge about. So what does Tony Sheridan think about Apple Corps, or what about Sgt. Pepper, stuff like that? What do the Quarrymen think about the breakup of the Beatles? Like, it's not uninteresting, but it's not your first source, right? So in a world where the Beatles anthology exists, and that cool Ron Howard documentary exists, and even The Complete Beatles, there's a documentary, I think it's from the 80s, called The Complete Beatles. That's a good one too. So this is, of course, far down the rung from that. But, and it's the same with the Stones, although I have to say the one about the Rolling Stones has a ton of footage of the Rolling Stones, because they're so well photo documented. They had so many press conferences. They have, inside the recording of Exile on Main Street. They're just not new interviews with these people, but because they've done so much press. The Beatles were around on the public scene for about 8 years. Rolling Stones coming up on 60 years. So it's just different. And I enjoyed also because the Rolling, like, they fly through the 60s. You have 52 minutes to talk about all of the 60s. They fly through the 60s. But then the 70s, less eventful for the Rolling Stones. So they really slow it down. And by the time you get to the 80s, I'm finding stuff out about the Stones in the 80s that I didn't even know. And it's all because it's all so well documented bottom line is I enjoyed it. I enjoyed them for what they are. They're not going to be your first stop I don't recommend them as, like, if you're new to the Beatles and new to the Stones, I don't recommend these for you. There's better sources. For the Rolling Stones, first thing I would go do is watch Crossfire Hurricane. Fantastic documentary about the founding, the early years of the band, and the mania, the violence. They'd go on stage. The Beatles would go on stage, and the girls would just like, oh. Rolling Stones go on stage, and fights break out, and then they come up on the stage and just punching on the stage, like it's crazy. Like Keith Richards kicking people in the head. That's for real. Like, Rolling Stones brought out a different side of people. That's where I would start. It's Crossfire Hurricane. But for fans like me who've been dealing with this stuff for several decades now, it's cool to see some I've never really listened to what Tony Sheridan had to say about the Beatles. Now I have that. Now I have that perspective. So it's got some interesting things. The Brian Epstein documentary is almost entirely culled from footage. Actually, both the Epstein documentary and the John Lennon documentary, almost entirely of existing footage from the Beatles, the 5 52-minute chapters of the Beatles. But here's what I'm saying. This is like $11.99 on Amazon. You could look at it like the Who concert is your A-list draw, which it's the last thing on the last disc. It should be the first thing on the first disc, unless you just want to go out on a high note. That might have been the mentality behind this, but it's worth $11.99 just for the Who show. And then of course the other stuff is just supplementary. It's just icing on the cake. All right, I recommend it. That's the bottom line. Is I recommend it, but know what you're getting into. This is not official, and it's not going to be like, oh, it's not like something you're going to see on Netflix. They're also from like 2002, 2003, and then the concert's from 99. So none of it's really new and current production. We're talking about like square frame, old square TV frame. Linda Ronstadt documentary. You guys, we talked about this in the most recent Kino Lorber video that we did. I watched this after that, and I had expectations. I've heard that it's really good. I've heard that a lot of people think that this is just like a really definitive document about Linda Ronstadt. So I had some kind of higher expectations. Like, look, the Hollywood Reporter, that's a good source. The Hollywood Reporter says we'll make you fall in love with her all over again. You guys, this documentary is stunning. It is a 10 out of 10. I was not prepared for what this documentary was going to do to me. Here's the thing. I have Linda Ronstadt records. I'm familiar with her music, but there are areas of her life and her career that I just wasn't familiar with. Like when she departs sort of the 60s and 70s California sound, that's kind of where my knowledge tapers off of her, but she kept going, and where she went is really interesting, and how she has ended up. I won't spoil anything for you, but like where she is now, kind of heartbreaking. And I'm just watching. It's heartbreaking, but it's also uplifting. It's also triumphant. I'm gonna tell you guys, like, this thing made me cry, and that's rare because that's not something that a documentary often is able to make me do. It's just so good. I can't recommend this to you guys enough. I've heard some feedback from people that they got to see this in theaters, and I just think, like, I don't think this played in my theater. This was 2019, right? I don't think this came to my theater. I would have loved to have seen this on the big screen and hear that music projected through a sound system that's, a theatrical sound system. But catch it any way you can. It is magnificent. I don't want to oversell it. That's always the risk, is you oversell things. But it's really wonderful. All right, let's do some CDs. What's our time running like? Oh, okay. We'll do some CDs and then we'll get out of here. I grabbed David Bowie. This is the self-titled David Bowie album, which also known as a Space Oddity. I am familiar, of course I'm familiar with David Bowie. Of course I have some greatest hits packages, but I've never done the album by album work for David Bowie. And if you're familiar with our music content, like, I'm trying to think, I've talked about ELO. I'm doing this with ELO. I did it with Journey. I'm doing it with Dusty Springfield. I did it with. It's kind of a theme. Like, I like to just go through the entire catalog of certain bands. I'm going to do the work on David Bowie, album by album, because again, I don't have any single albums. Everything I have by Bowie is a package, and I'm not happy with that anymore. So it's time to do the work. So I grabbed this one. This is where it starts. There is a previous album, a previous David Bowie record, also self-titled, I want to say. It's kind of a different thing. I'm going to have to go back and pick that one up. David Bowie goes back to before his albums, he goes back to the mid-60s. He was doing, he had a period where he was a fan of the guy that wrote the music for, like, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And, like, what is it, the Rubber Band Man? Oh, what's the name of that song? My memory is failing me because I wasn't prepared to talk about it. I don't have it, right? So, but they were like almost novelty songs. And then, of course, he launches into this fully formed Bowie. Bowie. And Bowies and Spies. Flight of the Conchords reference. So I just think it's really interesting. I got to see how he has evolved. Because, of course, I'm a big fan of not staying in one place and kind of moving forward and not just repeating past successes. I'm trying to do that here on the channel with some of the stuff we do, trying to keep moving forward. That's what Disney said. He said, just keep moving forward. You guys, we got to talk about this. The Psychedelic Furs, the first new album from the Psychedelic Furs in 29 years. Almost 3 decades after, I think their album was, last one was 1991. This is 2020's Made of Rain. It's so interesting because there's a compilation, a Psychedelic Furs Greatest Hits album from 2001. And in the liner notes for it, the guy who's writing the liner notes is like, but the boys aren't settling on their laurels and they're working on new music as we speak. That's right, the Psychedelic Furs aren't done. And watch for new material from the Psychedelic Furs. And it's just funny to me that that's 19 years later, and here it is. But all that being said, by the way, Psychedelic Furs, Pretty in Pink is the biggest hit, right? That's the one that kind of broke them on a whole other level. Post-punk, late 70s, early 80s, post-punk, kind of art rock, but really good stuff. Dumbwaiters, Sister of Mine? What's the name of the song? Anyway, go listen to Psychedelic Furs. This is amazing. It's amazing. Again, it's always a risk of overselling this stuff to you guys, but I just want to be honest without setting expectations too high. I think it's the best thing they've ever done, which may make sense because they've had 30 years to work on it, but the songwriting is top notch. The vocalization, like the Burton Boys, the instrumentation, the guitars, everything you want from Psychedelic Furs, like the horns. And it's like really judicial, but good use of horns. And then the singing is on point. It's well produced, but I don't think it's overproduced. It feels like guys who are in their 50s, if not, you know, I don't know how old they are, late 50s for sure. It feels experienced. It feels like they've built upon what they knew, but it is the Psychedelic Furs. It doesn't sound like a kinder, gentler Psychedelic Furs. It's got teeth. It's mournful in a way, you know, it's snarling. It's good. Listen to The Boy That Invented Rock and Roll. Listen to Don't Believe. Listen to Wrong Train. You know what? All these, like Ash Wednesday. That's another good one. It's really, really good. There's only one song on here that I'm not crazy about. It's a song called Tiny Hands, and it feels like something out of like a Hollywood movie's end credits or something like that. But it's well produced and it's good songwriting, so maybe that's going to grow on me as well. It just feels a little saccharine, but it may have a meaning behind it that gives it a whole other level. So you guys, the Psychedelic Furs, Made of Rain, it's fantastic. I grabbed a Cheap Trick album. This came from the record store, where I got all the $3 records. This is this is probably one of their biggest hits, Lap of Luxury, but I didn't have it. I have a lot of Cheap Trick. I didn't have this one. By the way, if you guys have a tip on how I can get most of the 80s catalog for Cheap Trick, a lot of it seems to be out of print. One on One. There's about 4 albums after Dream Police and before Lap of Luxury, and they're just almost impossible to find. If you guys have any, and I don't want to pay $25 for a used CD. So if you guys have any tips, let me know. But this is the one that has The Flame on it. That was a huge hit for them. MTV hit. Trying to see if there's any others I would recommend. Let's fly through this. We're running long. Guys, Cyndi Lauper. See previous comments about Cyndi Lauper. This is the Body Acoustic. It's 2004, I want to say. 2005. And it's acoustic reinterpretations of some of her biggest hits. And they're really good. They bring something new and fresh to the table. And what's cool about this, like Girls Just Want to Have Fun, is now like a full reggae. You know, it's always been reggae. You listen to that song, the beat, it's like it's got that reggae beat. But here it's just like full reggae with like a Latin influence as well, which, you know, reggae. But the thing about this disc, this is the first pressing of this package, and it was a double-sided disc. One side of it is the album. The other side of it is, come on, get that glare off, is a DVD with like music videos and like a making of the album. And that didn't last. That's not a thing that has like survived, but it's cool. I think the original, here's going too deep into the well too, but like the original pressing of the CD, like when this came out, you couldn't burn it because it was DRM protected. So like your computer or whatever, be like, no, we can't burn it. You can burn it now. That's what, like, I take these CDs. I don't drive around listening to CDs. I tend to burn these things. I rip them to my digital music collection. Pardon me. I put them on my phone. I put them on various devices. And when I'm not near the home record player, I can just listen to MP3s wherever I want to. So rather than subscribe for music, I like to buy and rip my own collections, and I have that collection forever. You buy it once, you never have to buy it again, unless you want it on a different format. The rest of these are thrift store. Actually, maybe not the rest of these. Okay, Marvin Gaye greatest hits. Every great Motown hit. That's from a thrift store. Talking Heads, Stop Making Sense. That's from a thrift store. Van Morrison, Moondance. That's from a thrift store. These are all from thrift stores. And this is our last pick. This is the last thing. It came from a thrift store. You guys, Prince, Purple Rain. Someone donated Purple Rain to a thrift store. I feel like this is a good Instagram. Like, I could put the Blu-ray right here, which has a purple case, and I could put Purple Rain, the soundtrack, right here. I don't have the vinyl. That'd be if I could put the vinyl behind it, but I couldn't believe it, man. So many hits on this. Let's Go Crazy, When Doves Cry, Darling Nikki, Purple Rain. You guys remember that Super Bowl performance where he played Purple Rain in the rain, and it was just amazing. Maybe the best Super Bowl performance of all time. All right, that's going to wrap this Music Palooza Volume 2 up. I would love to continue the conversation with you guys in the comments below this video. These tend to be, you know, of all the stuff that I do, I got to say, this is just the wrapping at the end. Of all the stuff that I do, this is one of my favorite things. These Paloozas, where we can just kind of nerd out about like how we love this stuff. I do this in Collecting at Midnight too, but Collecting at Midnight tends to be before I've watched a lot of this stuff or listened to it or whatever. This is the backside of that one, like after, and I've put in the work and I'm like, oh man, this is really good. So we do these from time to time. I would love your support, your feedback, to let us know what you think about it. So again, you know, thumbs up, subscriptions. We would love to have more support on Patreon. That's always something. If you like this sort of thing, I do at least 2 to 3 hours of this every single month on Patreon, and it will never show up on the main YouTube channel. That's just for Patreon. We do Collecting at Midnight, we do audio commentaries, we do hangouts, all that sort of stuff. So if you like these long form, less produced, conversational, get inside Heath's head videos, there's a ton more of that on Patreon with collection tours and stuff like that too. So guys, thanks for, if you made it to the end of this video, that's pretty awesome, because look, attention spans are low, right? That's the average view is gonna get like 4 minutes or something. Like, he's just talking. He's still talking about that record convention being canceled. Click. But if you made it this far, I appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. Take care. And until next time, I will catch you later.